Everyone, it's Monday night, 9 o'clock. It's time for Use It or Lose It. We're going to be talking Super Rugby round 2. I'm sure we'll touch on a bit of Six Nations as well. And then look at some of the hot topics in rugby. Rassie Erasmus to England. Well, I think that's pretty much been put to bed now, with Rassie coming out and saying a few things about it, that it's certainly not on the cards. We'll maybe touch on that. And I know the guys want to talk about the Six Nations and the possibility of the Springboks going in there. Without further ado, let's introduce you to the panel. And I'm going to start off with a regular guest on the show, the yellow cap. It's Jacques. Jacques, good to have you on the show. A tough weekend for your Bulls.
It was very tough, Brent, and yeah, thanks for having me. Luckily, gotten all over it, but another week, we've got a bye, so I'm chilling this week.
Excellent. Well, we got a first-time guest. He's not a first-timer to the show because he often comments on the show, but it's Andre. Andre, good to have you on the show. And is that a false bay jersey I see behind you there?
Evening, Brent, and evening, everybody. Thanks for having me on board. Yes, that's which way do I put that? There we go. Yeah, it's my last false bay jersey that I got when the year I left the club. Spent 10 years there with the lads down in Cape Town.
Excellent. Yeah, I was just my dad actually. I recognised the colours actually because my dad used to play for False Bay back in the day. Quite a while ago. But anyway, welcome to the show. Great to have you on. I know you've got a blog and all of that sort of stuff. I'm not going to be hosting the show. I'm going to be introducing the host now. And while you're on, I'm going to find a link to your blog and put it up in the comments section and that sort of stuff as well. But love your comments. Love your Twitter handle. I know you're passionate about rugby, so look forward to your comments on the show. And that takes me to the host of the show today, and it's our very own Couch Critic. Couch, good to have you back on the show. It's going to be an interesting chat, this one.
How's it, Brent? Thanks. Yeah, always good chatting rugby, as you know. Never a shortage of something to say on that topic. And yeah, it's nice having the two guests. And welcome to Andre for the first time as well. And I'm sure we'll have a lekker chat. And yeah, it's been a pretty busy week on social media. So we've got a few topics to cover.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to following the show in the background. I'll be there. If there are any guys joining us on the live chat, I see we've got a few live viewers at the moment. We'll be chatting to them because today's a day I've been locked up in a boardroom all day meetings, finished at just after 6 o'clock, only to find I'd left my lights on all day in the garage and I didn't have any battery. So once I didn't even think I was going to make the show, but I haven't been on Twitter. I don't know what's been happening today. So look forward to catching up with that. But Couch, I'm going to hand over to you. Gents, have a good show. I'll be watching and see you at the end.
Cheers, Brent. Thanks. I'm gonna jump right in there. Brent actually started off a little bit, and it's definitely not gonna be a day of bullying. But Cappy, I hope you don't mind that the first topic is gonna be, and I'll start with you if that's fine as well. Is 2 games in, 2 losses. Do you see a way back for your Bulls this season?
It's only 2 games in, 2 rounds. I mean, the season hasn't ended, and let's just make it clear that the trophy has also not been handed over yet for those that think it might have been. But yeah, it's tough times. It's going to be a struggle to get up and going. But at the end of the day, we're not bottom of the log, which is already something to look forward to. Because at one stage I didn't even want to look at the log, and then someone dared to tweet it, so I did see it. That's the only way I got to see it, and then I carefully opened it only to find out that we at least, I think, 4th from the bottom, which is better than last. So there is definitely hope. I mean, if there wasn't hope, we wouldn't be alive today. So look, at this stage, I'll be a crazy man to talk about title ambitions. So let's take it week by week for now.
Chalk, but just on that on that topic, I mean, on a serious front, I don't want to keep on talking too long about the Bulls, but do you think there's a issue with the game plan wise? Do you think it's personnel, or do you think it's just something that will come right? They'll click in a few games time. Is it just a minor issue, or is it bigger coaching and factors like that?
Look, I mean, I think we've all got our own opinion on what's going on at the moment. My personal opinion is that, yes, we've lost 2 games, and I think it's been 2 games where, first of all, if we just quickly jump to the Sharks game, the Bulls were right in it until, 77 minutes into the game. It was still anybody's game. I think on Saturday, it was not a 77-minute game this time around, but until very late in the game, the Bulls looked like they were threatening, but the Stormers' defense was unbelievable. And I tweeted a tweet which, as normal on Twitter, gets, people only read half sentences and stuff, whereby I said, I felt that the Bulls were the better team, yet they were the far worse team as well. Unfortunately, only people read the first part of that line, and had a field day about it. And if you can't read, then I can't help you. So at the end of the day, I don't think the Bulls are that bad as what it's looking. And I know people will disagree with me. I think we all look at rugby differently, and I honestly don't think the Bulls are that far off. But there are problems. What they are, 100%, it's difficult to say. I'm starting to think that Puerta is really struggling, and he's got the right guys, but somewhere something is not gelling. And I think one of the big issues might be our centers. To just mention one area of concern for me, I still believe, and sorry, I don't know, I hope I'm not jumping it. You just need to stop me if I am. But I know Cornell is, I don't know what's going on. It's 3 games now, 2 official games, of Super Rugby and, the Superhero Sunday game, where Cornell has missed 3 perfect opportunities for the Bulls. Out of, on Superhero Sunday, he got lucky right after he messed it up, and scored a try. Unfortunately, those things don't happen, in real rugby. So I don't know what's going on, there, if it's a confidence thing with him. I think there's a general the way things are going now, the confidence is definitely going lower and lower and lower. The Bulls are in critical positions on the field, and then they make critical mistakes. So, you can't be making mistakes when it matters most. To get up to where you do, to have players like Jaco Versaghi doing the stuff that he did this week. The team works as a whole to get somewhere, and you get one, and I'm going to say it, you get one idiot that does something stupid. And you don't need players like that in your team. I said it before, and I'll say it again. And unfortunately, I just saw the Bulls fitness report that Johan Grobbelaar should be the guy starting. But unfortunately, I just saw that Johan Grobbelaar, will find out tomorrow whether he's going to be out for the next 6 weeks or not, because he's apparently injured his ankle. They don't know yet what the extent of it is. So we've got big problems at hooker already. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that mouthful there. I knew that would get things started. Andre, your thoughts there on the Bulls? Do you think it's just a minor issue at the moment? They'll find their groove. Is there a bigger concern? Coaching, structure, system, maybe some of the players. Is it the case of Manie Libbok needing to start, and that hopefully sorting out all their problems?
Yeah, I think when you look at the composition of the team and then team selection. At the beginning of the season, I was quite happy to see the employment of the Springbok game plan and team selection with the 6-2 bench, strong forward pack, or relatively strong forward pack. But I think the issue is it's the key personnel selected to start. So, I would have started Libbok from game 1 and would have given him the trust, and then I would have had Steyn on the bench. I'm sorry, Ivan van Zyl doesn't cut it for me. He hasn't cut it for me for 2-3 years now. I can't get my head around that selection when you've got somebody like Papier who can just speed that game up for you, and then you've got the experience of Mornay on the bench to close out games for you. This past Saturday's game, I counted in the last 20 minutes. The Bulls turned down 12 kickable points, and they had field position, they had possession of the ball, they were dominating. The Stormers were giving away penalties. There's a saying that we use, when there's more time on the board than there are points behind, you take the 3 points. And going into the last 10 minutes, we could have been 12-0 down, and we could have been showing a little bit of doubt into the Stormers' minds, purely by taking the 3 points that were on offer right in front of the post. But no, we decide to kick to the corner because we're trapped in this idea of we trapped in this web of entertaining rugby, and that I find that's holding us back. We want to be entertaining, but then we're going to sacrifice winning. And the Bulls were in a position to go into the last 10 minutes with a score at 13-9, showing a little bit of doubt, and I think we would have had a different perspective of what the Bulls did. I don't think the team and Twitter as a collective really grasp how poorly the decisions they made on Saturday. The decision making as a team as a whole was extremely poor, and when you're that poor, you deserve to end with a 0.
I must say, I think it's always a knock-on effect when you start going for the corner. It's almost like as soon as you've gone for the corner once, it's like you've put all your chips in and you just gotta ride it out. So they just always keep on going for the corner. It's almost like that ship has sailed now and they can't go back to taking a penalty. It's just that default position, and it's quite interesting that you say positive rugby. I know Diemont was talking in an interview and in I think Master Plan or something like that, and saying that they want to play attractive brand of rugby, but quite interesting, kicking to the corner and just mauling it over is hardly attractive rugby. So that's also an interesting one, and I think we'll go straight on to the Stormers in that sense as well. But just lastly, I actually had a chat. I hope he doesn't mind that I'm going to bring it up, but he probably won't see this in any case. To Bevan Fortuin this afternoon, and he was talking about the Morne Steyn selection, and obviously with Mani Libbok having a influence here in SWD or the schools around here. Everybody loves him, so Bevan himself was very keen on Libbok getting more game time. So perhaps that is the way, but I understand what they were trying to do there, and obviously getting in an experienced guy and trying to teach the younger guys a few tricks. But yeah, I think that isn't exactly working out. I think for the Sharks game it was the right way to go, but in this case they probably need something different. But as Jock says as well, I mean, I've been a fan of Cornell Hendricks, especially his work rate and things like that, but it just doesn't quite come together for him at the moment. I don't know what's up there, and they need to change that. And then lastly, I mean, when you play a team, it's someone was talking about Ackerman at the Lions. It's you see what the team is like, and then you fit your game plan to that. And to me, when you're playing guys like Roscoe Speckman and Warwick Gelant, you got to play a game that suits them and gets them involved. It doesn't help you just get Speckman running after high balls. I mean, to me, that just doesn't make sense. Guys, if we can go on to the Stormers there, and I think Brent said it somewhere in the comments as well. We've seen that the Stormers can defend. I mean, there's no question mark about that. And now they've scored a railing ball try or two. Do the Stormers have something else in their arsenal? Andre, I'll start with you. And can they go? I don't know. Take it close this year.
I think the Stormers' biggest issue was the loss of Bonge Mbonambi and Siya Kolisi. I don't think people realize how those two injuries and the loss of those two players impact their players. Their game plan is. I'm a big fan of defense, so I can't fault that they've worked their game around having a solid defensive team or defensive structure. And defense wins tournaments, but you've got at some stage you've got to score tries and you've got to get points on the board. And when you've got players like Sergio Peterson, Dylan Lates, that everybody punts, I'm expecting at least 2-3 tries per game, and at the moment now it's lacking.
Cappy, again, I know John Dobson, he went on record, he said that the Cape Townians and the Stormers fans and the Newlands faithful, they expect a certain style from Western Province and the Stormers team, and that's an expansive one, and it's not just about winning rugby, and it's almost been the opposite to start with. He's gone and he's definitely won, and I think everyone is pretty positive. Do you think, as Andre said, there's going to be a time when people are saying, listen, you need to score some tries, or are they on the right track at the moment?
Look, I agree with Andre there about Bongi and Sia, and that is why I got laughed at when I made my predictions, and honestly, that was one of the main reasons why I made my prediction. And I felt that the Bulls could have won it. I mean, they honestly could have won it. I mean, to lose Sia is huge. To lose Bongi in the same breath is even bigger. So I mean, it was a golden opportunity. And I mean, we can go back in the years how many golden opportunities the Bulls have had at Newlands, and they haven't taken it. So that ship is now gone, as you like to say. There's not going to be another Newlands opportunity, because that's the end of that. Whatever you want to call it, chapter for years gone by and forever and ever. So the thing is, the Stormers are scoring tries more than the Bulls are at this stage. So and I think they are getting things right, but they aren't looking. If I have to compare them with the Sharks, for argument's sake, then I'll back the Sharks to go way further than the Stormers at this stage, because if the Stormers are going to come up against proper opposition, which they haven't had in 2 weeks, then then things are going to get tough. Then they're going to look like then they're probably going to, won't say look like the Bulls 100%, but in perspective of scoring tries, they are going to look like that, because I mean, yes, they are scoring, I think, tries from great opportunities and turnover balls, and with a guy like Herschel Yankees, anything is possible. So, but Herschel didn't score this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, I mean, I had to clear this game out of my head quickly. Anyway, but yeah, so he's a big. I mean, if they lose him as well, then what's going to happen? Because Damian Willems, I know it's only 2 games in, but are we still as confident about him as we were before the season started? Man's kicking, he can hardly buy a kick at this stage of the game. So yeah, I think they've got a lot to work on at this stage, and it's for a coach to say one thing and then end up doing another thing. I don't think whatever a coach says needs to be set in stone. A coach should be free to, if he wants to change the game from what he said, then so be it. It's got to. I think that's a nice thing of a successful coach, is to be able to adapt to whatever the game needs to be on the day or on the moment. And whatever's working for the Stormers now, they need to carry on with it. But like I say, I mean, I think the Bulls exploited a lot this weekend, which the Hurricanes, I don't know what happened last weekend. Honestly, I still don't get it. But flipping hell, so whatever, lucky Stormers, and they got 27-0. It's only the 3rd time apparently any team outside of New Zealand got that right against the New Zealand team. And strange enough, the Stormers was twice on that, on that boat. So well done to them.
Yeah, to be honest, personally, I just think you can work on your attack and you can come back from that. But I think it's much the more difficult to sort out your defense. So in the Stormers' favor there, I think it's a tweak or two, or Damian Willems finding his feet, and things will change for them there. And what you also got to remember is that the Sharks look good, but it's also a lot from turnover ball and loose play. So it's something that could change for the Stormers, and they could easily end up like that's an hard luck try, and all of a sudden they look great. Just on before we move on, maybe let's have a quick one on Damian Willems. So there again, it's just 2 games in, but I actually saw Super Rugby, I think, on Twitter had a very interesting chat there, and he said it flies all about Dan Carter apparently said it about getting the ball into space, and be that giving it outside to someone who's going to get into that space, chipping it into space, kicking it out of hand out in to be able to get to that space, or running yourself, and the good fly off knows when to do which out of those ones. And to me, that's the big thing about Damian Willems at this stage, is everyone knows he can step and he can get himself to that space. But the question is, can he make the right decisions at the right time in terms of when to use one of those 5 options? And maybe it's something that he'll learn over the course of Super Rugby, or maybe it's just a case of kicking out of hand just isn't good enough, or his decision making under pressure just isn't good enough. I don't know, Andre, do you have an opinion on Damian Willems and whether fly off is his best position, or whether he should be sticking there at least for this season?
Yeah, I know John Dobson has given him the responsibility of driving the team from Flav, which I haven't got a problem with. For me, John Dobson also started him off at 15 in the Currie Cup, and he took a lot of flack for that. But for me, that's when Damian Willems, you could see the best out of him, because he just had so much more space. He had a traditional Flav inside him. He linked up as a second playmaker, but when you link up as a second playmaker, it's normally once the defense has been broken down, there's a mismatch in numbers. It's a back running against a forward. He gets his stepping in. He can get the offload. As a Flav, I think he's just too close to the action where the space just isn't enough. And as you move up in the quality of rugby that you're facing, that space is going to get less. Yeah. And I was hoping that starting at 15, seeing what it means to have space outside you and what you can do, his transition to fly off and cementing his position at fly off, he would understand that role. And it's just, I don't think he's been a success. Yes, it's only 2 games. I think he's still going to grow. He's still going to get better as the time goes on. But he needs to settle on a position. He's definitely not a player that a hybrid player that can play 2 or 3 positions. Fly off and fullback's probably max. But he's a player that needs to pick a position, settle, and if it's fly off, I think we'll be able to make a better judge of him at the end of the season and know exactly where he is in the pecking order.
Yeah, 100%, Andre. I think that's exactly the issue, is that, you'd really like to see him settle in a position, and it's almost like the clock is against you there in terms of just deciding which one it is. And to me, it's always a danger when everyone's like, oh, we want to see him closer to the action, we want to see a guy playing 10, but when his primary skill set that everyone loves is your step and your pace, then you got to wonder whether fly off really is your best position, because it's like saying Francois Hart is the best scrum off because he's got the best step and the best pace. And to me, you got to think about what your primary role is. And I'm not saying it's necessarily goal kicking, because you could have a fullback, but just in terms of generally, and I think you said it, like controlling the game and generaling the game. Obviously, that gets better with time, but how much time you're really going to give him. Cappy, you want to add something on Willems there before we move on to the Sharks?
No, I think Andre made a very good summary there, and to me, it's just amazing how within 2 weeks, the conversation has completely changed, whereby it was finally Cohen Bosch is at 10, settled, what, without, not going to have interruptions like last year, and it's showing, and the same conversation was had about Damian Willems, yet we're seeing the complete opposite. And it's just like, I don't know if he's been given too much responsibility, but there was a very interesting moment in the game on the weekend. I'm sure you guys saw it, and where the commentators actually brought it up, where I forgot now. Oh, Steven Kitsoff, he was the captain. They got a penalty. He wanted Damian to kick, and Damian was literally begging him not to go for poles. He just doesn't have the confidence. And I mean, if Damian doesn't want to kick to poles, there's surely what's his name, Dylan Lights. I mean, there must be someone else in the team that could possibly take the goal kicking option away from him, which is fine. And then let him rather just try and focus on one thing at a time. Maybe he's just got too much responsibility. But I like Andre's summary of saying he's just too close to the game maybe, and when he's going to get up to even a better team or opposition, then things are going to get even more tighter. And I love Stephen Marks' comment where he said, just put the goalpost on the sideline, you'll never miss a kick. I mean, I think that's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, but I think it obviously you'd have loved to have given him the opportunity, especially as a youngster, to play without the goal kicking responsibility. But I think Dylan Lights was first choice kicker at UCT the last time. He isn't really a primary kicker, so that's the problem they have. And then yeah, you're going to make other changes. And, don't get me wrong, I still think it is a good thing that Willemse is getting his shot at 10 and give him the season. And I think then we're probably going to be in a position to make a call. So I don't think it's a bad thing, and let's see how it goes. Cappy, then onto the Sharks. Listen, we've obviously the first one was a bit of a scrap. It was Durban. It's a coin toss that, no one wants to play there. The second one, obviously a pretty impressive performance there in Dunedin. I mean, everyone's impressed, but that could change in 1 week. We all know that. But how do you see the Sharks? I think you've already mentioned that you probably see them as possibly the best prospect. Your thoughts on the Sharks at the moment?
Yeah, yes, I was very, very impressed, and I kind of hoped, what had happened was going to happen. That was one of the reasons why when I made my prediction for the week. I mean, I'm not playing Super Rugby this year, but I still shape my predictions on Twitter just for those that that want to have a good laugh or whatever. And I did have 4 out of 7, by the way, and of which 2 were shockers, or not shockers, but shock results. Of which I think this game was a shock result to many people. But I felt that the Sharks didn't have a good game in Durban. Conditions, I think, mainly the reason. It was definitely very hot and humid. I mean, you could see it with the Bulls and the Sharks that night. It wasn't a matter of being rusty or anything. I think it was really a case of just a very, very wet, slippery ball and stuff. But in saying that, then we didn't get to see much of them, and they didn't get to show what they could possibly do. So they must have been a little bit unsure going into this game. So my hope was that they do get it right, and they can show us the glimpses that we did see of, which they just couldn't finish off. And it ended up being that way. And look, I mean, I'm not a big Shark supporter. I'm not a Shark supporter at all, for that matter. And it just goes against any belief or blood group that I have to support them. But yes, when I saw that result, I was like, geez, you know what? I mean, these guys, you got to give them credit. And I mean, well done to the Sharks. And Mapimpi is just, this guy is just getting better by the moment. I mean, I really hope he can stay fit the whole season. One thing that I like about him, and sorry, I know you're asking me about the result at the moment, but I just want to say this in case I forget. But it's just amazing. I don't know if you guys have watched it in this way, but I just find it amazing that when you look at the way he runs, it doesn't look like he sprints or anything. He looks like he jogs, and I mean, it's just ridiculous. I don't know how he gets it right, but he's clearly faster than almost anybody at this stage. But it's not a matter of, you're not seeing quick legs. I mean, he's just taking huge strides, and he makes it look so easy. But that guy is just unbelievable. But well done to the Sharks. I think that result was huge. And I think the biggest secret now is for them to build on this result. If they can get at least 3 or 4 results, if not 4, that would be unbelievable.
Remember, Jock, you just got to keep in mind that in one game he ran around Cornell Hendricks, so that just made him look a lot faster than he really is. It was just don't get that mistaken.
But the thing you really got to go look at is last year's Superhero Sunday, not this year. Go look at last year's Superhero Sunday when he ran away Cornell Skosan. That is something to look at. Then you'll see the difference in leg speed.
No, I agree with you, and I must say the big thing is it's unbelievable. This time, or probably not this time last year, but 6 months ago, I think it was talking to Judge, and I was saying I don't even think Mapimpi is going to struggle getting in the World Cup squad. I definitely gave Nkosi the edge over him in terms of a starting winger, and I think Colby on the other one, and it's amazing to me. To me, Mapimpi has passed Nkosi in terms of just taking that step up. It's almost like he's floating at the moment, and as you said, it almost feels like he's up to the notch in terms of his pace, his ability, his perception, and he's always had that hunger and that eye for the try line as well. So no, he's in superb form and pretty much along with Fassi at the moment. Andre, your thoughts on the Sharks at the moment?
On the Sharks, unfortunately, I missed the game on Friday due to work, but I'm actually very impressed with the Sharks and what they've achieved this year. I think they've got a great blend of players, because they've lost quite a lot of players, and that forward pack of theirs is reasonably young. But they've got one or two senior players. They've got a very good backline with World Cup winners in it. And what really impressed me is the youngsters that have come through the academy. Yes, a lot of them played in the SA Under-20 side last year, but it didn't stop there. They came back to the Sharks, and something's happening behind the scenes at the Sharks. It's not happening at the other provinces. And you can see it in the quality of the likes of, I think it's Tyler Paul and Nwamba coming through. To this day, I still don't understand how Mampimpi wasn't selected in the Alistair Coetzee regime, and I'm glad he wasn't, because I think he would have damaged his rugby. The leadership of Am is just insane, and we're not privy to what goes on behind. And one would never think of Am as a captain, but now 2 weeks down the line, 2 wins, a win away from home, there's just something, and I think I tweeted it on this weekend, is that there's something special happening at the Sharks. They're at the step of doing something really good. I think maybe not this year, but this squad is young enough that in 2 years' time, next year and the year after, they're going to be really, really good. One comparison that I'd like to make between the Sharks and the Stormers is at 9. Now, I know Louis Schroeder gets a lot of stick, and a lot of people don't enjoy him, but he's been around a while. He's an experienced player, and I think his experience allows Kevin Bosch to express himself a little bit better. And maybe if Damian Willems didn't have, and I'm not taking anything away from Herschel Jantjies, he's a great player, but I think just a more steady 9, a little bit more experienced 9, with a slightly crisper pass, and I think we might see a little bit more from Damian Willems. So I think it's just a little bit of the balance at the Sharks. Even though they've lost players, they've got the balance right, and I think that's why we're going to see some good results from them, even on tour now.
Yeah, listen, I'm a bit scared or skeptical to blow too much smoke. Yeah, at the moment they might come crashing down, and the Hurricanes tear them a new one this weekend, and then we all look like idiots. Yeah, just singing their praises. But I must agree. I think especially at the back, the question is whether over the length of a season the forward pack's going to hold up, especially if they get an injury or two, and whether the backup is going to be good enough, especially at hooker and that kind of thing. So we'll have to see. But I must agree on someone like Tyler Paul. He's not really pushed up as hyped up as this big player, and yet he's crucial for the Sharks in terms of having just a little bit of that big impact player at 7. So he makes a heck of a difference at the moment, especially without the Dupree's there. And yeah, definitely. And the only issue is, of course, Esterhuizen leaving at 12 again. He's seen as a bit of a backup for the Boks and not first choice, but in that Shark setup, he's important as well, just as that go forward carrier. And I don't think they're going to replace him quite as easily when he has to leave, even though they do have Marius Lowe, so maybe that's going to be okay. And then I agree on I think is superb. He's another one along with Mampimpi that's really just shot up in my estimation. He's really taken a step up, and it's great to see him actually given that captaincy role, because I think he did a lot of leading in terms of the defense under Nienaber, and so that's a great thing. So now I'm very positive for the future for the Sharks. I still don't see them having a title season, but I'm happy with what I saw. But in terms of title, I'd like to. Cappy, do you want to say something?
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add something. Someone that I've been quite critical of since. Again, sorry, I keep hopping on Superhero Sunday. But someone that I was quite critical on, and I can't remember if I mentioned it that week before that week. It was that week after Superhero Sunday. Is Noche. I kind of felt, and I watched him against the Bulls again. And I thought, geez, man, I don't know what's wrong with this guy. And then and I kind of almost made it up, in my mind that now I understand, why the Stormers didn't want him anymore. I kind of got the idea. We were sitting here with a lazy guy, a passenger, and just hanging around the fringes, what. But I mean, I think this week, on Friday, he came to the party, and if he can deliver those kind of games week by week, it's going to take a lot. Yes, I know, but I mean that's what he's paid to do. That's going to go a long way for the Sharks. So I mean, it just shows that if a guy just gives a little bit of effort, it goes a long way, for the team effort at the end of the day. So I mean, I think I just think he deserves a mention. And I mean, I like seeing guys that I criticize do well. It's really, really nice.
But to me, the big thing always with a loose chair is about the balance, and I think the role of a guy like Tyler Paul just allows Noche to play that role, because you can't play 2 or 3 of those same type of players, and then people say, but listen, Noche is just hanging around and he isn't doing the hard graft. So you need a few guys doing the hard graft and putting in the big hits and that kind of thing that allows Noche to play that little bit of a booster role. And again, they've got Fenter now fetching, so Noche doesn't have to do that kind of thing. So I just think the balance at the moment is pretty good with that setup. So no, it is a good thing. And listen, I know I'm trying to actually hype up Brent for taking out New Zealand. So I'm hoping he gets a bit of flack from the New Zealanders. So let's keep going on that trend. You were saying that it might be the end of an era. Obviously, I'm blowing this out of proportion, but let's just roll with it. End of an era for New Zealand. So guys, seeing what the New Zealanders have done at this stage, do you think there's a little bit of a drop off? I mean, obviously the Crusaders losing, it was against another New Zealand team, but are we seeing some cracks there with a few senior guys going, and they probably just don't quite have that same quality and depth that they used to have? Giel, maybe you go on this one.
I think it's still too early to make such a big assumption. I think winning the World Cup has given us that belief that South African sides were lacking. A lot of the teams have lost some senior players, so we've seen them lose now players to the exodus like we've done over the years. But they've got such great structures in place to bring talent through. Every year, yes, if you're trying to do fantasy rugby with a New Zealand side, there's going to be a wing that's going to pop up that you didn't know existed, and he's starting, and then it's a rush to the computer to draft the oak before somebody else, and that's normally after he scored 3 tries. So I think that their structures are in place. I think it's just getting things to click, and the Chiefs beating the Crusaders. That I think I'm still trying to work my way around that game, because everything. If you look at the statistics, if you look at everything, the Chiefs should have packed that game. The Crusaders should have packed that game away. The stats were in their favor, but a little bit of Warren ball came into the game, a little bit of heart, holding on, and the Chiefs won at home. So another thing, we've got to make sure you win your home games and as many away games as possible, and getting bonus points. And that was a job achieved by the Chiefs this weekend.
Yeah, I must say, to me, it was almost not typical of the Crusaders to make a few of those errors, and maybe it was some of the newer players. David are really stepping into fly off there. To me, didn't quite control the game, obviously, as Muanga would have. One break.
I jinxed him, because the first half I tweeted, geez, who would have thought David Avili at 10, and he was awesome. The second half, he couldn't catch a cold. Like, it was chalk and cheese, and like I really felt like I put the jinx on the poor guy, because as soon as you lose your 10 or your 9, and their confidence goes, it plays a massive role in the team's performance. So if they had a backup 10 or a traditional 10 in the second half, it might have been a different result.
Yeah, I must say, I thought he actually started quite sharp, and then the second half, it's almost like coming on as a sub, and you can put in a good 20 or 30, but controlling a game for 80 is probably a little bit of a different story. But I also don't trust Brett Cameron at 10 either, so I wasn't really upset about Avili getting a shot at 10. But then also Will Jordan, who's been superb, that one clean break there, we just had to give it to Bridge, and he gave it on his shoelaces, which was, again, not something you see from the Crusaders. And then that one ball when they had a overlap there and Cody Taylor knocked it on. You know, that's from a senior player, which you wouldn't expect. But no, it's not anything to blow out of proportions. But to me, the Blues beat a very, very poor Waratahs team, and I don't see the Blues being in contention. The Highlanders getting a proper club from a visiting Sharks team. So I don't know. I don't think it's quite. In previous years, we'd almost say if it wasn't for the conference system, the New Zealanders would end number 1 to 5. And I think this time around, it's not the case. So, Cappy, do you think there's a little bit of merit to Brent's madness, or do you think the New Zealanders are still a bit of a cut above?
I don't know. I still want to see them. I think Andre there's a bit of truth in what he says. It's too early to make such bold statements, but I do think the whole South Africa winning the World Cup has given obviously the South African teams and players a bit more confidence to take on the world. In this case, Super Rugby teams, and but I do think that New Zealand is going to go through a bit of a transition period, and we will see the repercussions of that. Maybe not so hard. I don't know. It's tough to say whether we'll see it in Super Rugby and whether we'll only see it when they get together as the All Blacks. But at the end of the day, I think we might see glimpses of it during Super Rugby. With like you guys mentioned, there are a few players that have now left, that's left voids. And at the end of the day, we know the New Zealand rugby system has quite a lot of depth. But at the end of the day, you don't have consistent depth, at the level if I can take it a year back, that they had a year back or 2 years ago. And I think the cracks started showing last year already. I was one of the guys that tend to like to bring it up, that I started noticing cracks and stuff. So I don't think Brent is that far off. But I'd like to go back to what Andre said. It's too early to make a very big, bold statement like that, especially against New Zealand.
Cappy, maybe just before we step off Super Rugby there, just the All Black resting policy or player management policy, do you think it takes a bit away from the tournament by, especially the first few weeks, by them being limited, or do you think it's a good opportunity to see some young talent and each onto their own? If that's what the All Blacks feel they need to do, they should be doing it.
It's interesting that you bring it up now. Sorry, to be quite honest, I didn't know they were still carrying on with it now that the World Cup's done and dusted. That's obviously why Bowden didn't play last week. Am I right? Because I'm not.
No, I think Bowden as a rule, just part of his contract was that he'd take an extensive break and go to America and just do things that normal rich people do. So he was just given that break as part of his rule. But the other guys like a Cody Taylor and a Moanga, even though he was out this week, Scott Barrett's probably going to come up this week. They were only allowed, I think, 180 minutes or something like that over the first 3 games. So they had to manage it in terms of that. And I know they had big interviews with the New Zealand boss and said, listen, is it ideal for the tournament and things like that.
Yeah, well, I find it quite, like I said, I think there's. I wouldn't have imagined them doing it. I mean, the World Cup's done and dusted. I think it's, also, like they say, all systems back. It's a new cycle, as they like to call it, and you'd want to, get the guys. There's a new All Black coach in the mix. So yes, he's been around, I know, but still, it is a new guy. So I don't understand why they would be doing that, because we sure as far as I know, the Boks haven't implemented anything like that. So I don't understand the reasoning behind it, and it's definitely gonna cause an impact. With all the other teams giving, making everyone else available. So you know what? From a South African perspective, let them please do it, because it just opens the door, for guys like your team that really needs it a lot, the Sharks. So anyway, but yeah, really, from a South African perspective, please do it. we don't mind if the New Zealand teams want to be weaker.
Andre, that's actually quite an interesting question. You know, I still think Super Rugby is about playing the best against the best. You know, that's why we enjoy watching it. That's why we enjoy it. It's almost the same as, you know, this weekend. Obviously, Mo'unga was out, but if they, you know, didn't play Mo'unga just because he had to rest, I think the game would have been poorer for it. Your opinion on that?
My opinion on this is, I think, totally different. Rassie proved that with proper management, you can get a team to a final where the players have played less rugby but are ready for finals rugby. I can't remember the exact stats, but man for man, the Springboks had played less rugby in the World Cup than the English squad and were fresher come the final. So that's the first point. The second point is these teams have got squads of 45 players. On minute 99, a player could be injured and you've got to step up and play the game. So I think during the round robin stage, before you get to the playoffs, there's plenty of time to work through your 45, manage their game time, give them plenty of time to play, find your combinations, perfect your combinations, rotate players from the bench so that when you get to the playoffs, you already know who your top 23 is. Your standby player is ready. He knows he's a standby player. If something goes wrong, he's coming in. So I don't buy the issue that some of the coaches are making that their players need to be rested. I think they should be jumping on it in saying, I'm being forced to manage my player, manage his minutes for the season, and it is what it is. Let's make it work because it can work.
Yeah, listen, I mean, you know, judges talked a lot about it in these chat shows, and there's obviously, I mean, it's common sense. Managing players is, I mean, that has to happen. They're not cattle. They need to get their rest. And I know some people have even said that, listen, you ask this guy and he would have told you he wanted to play. But to me, that's irrelevant, and that's a stupid thing to say. Every rugby player is going to tell you he wants to play, but you know, you don't know the car is going to break beforehand. It's going to break as soon as it's worn out, and a player can't just, you know, automatically feel that on his body. You know, he's never at 100%, but he never knows when it's going to break. So obviously, I think you have to rest some guys, and I mean, it's going to be the same for us whether we're forced to do it or not. I wouldn't like to see Pieter Steff the toy play every minute of every game and then pitch up for the junior internationals and step straight in, and obviously he's going to play every game there. So to me, sometimes it's not the worst thing in the world that someone like Sia misses 3 or 4 weeks with an injury and at least just gets that bit of a break. But I mean, we saw a little bit of the reverse with someone like Kieran Reid, who was out for half of the Super Rugby season last season, and then he never got up to his top level. So it's a fine line, and to me, it's a bit weird having it at the start of the season. I'd rather say, you know, maybe around your rest weeks, give them a 2-week rest instead of a 1-week rest. So either the 1 week before the bye or 1 week after the bye, you know, choose that and manage the guy. Or as the Chiefs did, you know, their Georges worked out that way, that they're obviously not going to take their big guys to the Sunwolves, and you know, that's fair enough. That's a different topic. But I wouldn't like to see the big games and you know, the big name players not playing. To me, that's taking away from the competition a bit. But be that as it may. Listen, unless you guys have something else you really want to say about Super Rugby, or can we move on to one of the other topics we'd like to still touch on? You happy? Okay, guys, the big one. Obviously, we'll get onto the other one, but Six Nations, that was the big talk. Obviously, we know newspapers want to sell copies, and you get clickbait from everyone on social, and you get Keo saying everything he thinks is absolutely true. South Africa possibly moving to the Six Nations. Anjay, firstly, let's say do it in 2 parts. Is it a realistic thing, or is it absolutely just us trying to push up maybe our bargaining chip? And secondly, if it is real, would it be a good thing? Would you like to see this move?
I think, hypothetically speaking, I do think it's possible. It gives us an opportunity to play 14 tests a year. Often we come up short by like 1. We play like 13 tests where Australia, New Zealand, England play 14. And it gives us a chance to play every single one of the tier 1 nations. because we'll still be playing Australia, New Zealand, Argentina later in the year. We play them earlier in the year. We get to play every one of the Six Nations sides, and then one or two tour games, and it gives us a total of 14. I have to admit, I'm for it. I think it's a great idea. I think we need something new. Every single player biography I've read, the players are always keen for something new. They want a new challenge. They find playing in the same tournaments stale and mundane. Hence why some of them move around. They go play in Japan or France or England. They want to play in different competitions. So I don't see a problem with it. I think it'll benefit South African rugby. Hypothetically speaking, I think South Africa's positioning itself for a global season. And I think if the global season does finally one day kick off, I think we'll be in a very good position if we've already got our foot in Europe and sorting things out there. So second part, I'm 100% for it. Just before we came online, I saw on a news headline pop up that the Rugby Players Association has said that they're already against it, and purely based on player welfare. They just don't think it'll be good for Northern Hemisphere players to be playing 6 weeks in a row, as this tournament would have, with very little rest space. So it's more the kickback has come from the RPA already on a statement based on a newspaper article with very little facts, that they wouldn't be supporting this.
Well, I must say that's pretty interesting, and probably the ideas then already limping from out the gate. Cappy, there, your thoughts on us possibly joining the Six Nations?
I'm also for it. To start off somewhere from there. I think I've been for the Boks, going up to Europe for a few years already. I think I'm getting a bit bored of Australia and New Zealand consistently wanting to get rid of us. Yet South Africa is the biggest financial contributor towards the whole Sansa gimmick. And if they don't want our money, then it's, I think, Brent asked the question, what advantage is it for the home unions? Money, definitely, because that's what it's all about. So, and I mean, obviously, I don't know what kind of money we would be talking about, and hopefully SuperSport would be able to, to kind of deliver that kind of stuff, because obviously the money we're talking about, Sansa, and, we're going from dollars to pounds or euros, which, doesn't really make a difference. It's going to be a hell of a lot of money, but in turn, it's going to be good for South Africa as well. And like you just said, like Andre just mentioned, sometimes the players want a new challenge, and this is all they've been doing for. I mean, Super Rugby is 25 years old this year, so that means the whole Tri-Nations, Super Rugby Championship, that's probably just as old, or if not close enough to that. So change is always as good as a holiday, they say, and I think the challenge that's up there, although out of the Six Nations, it might not be like a full-on 6 team, 6 new challenges, because I mean, Italy, if you look at them at the moment, cheap as they seem like they gone back to zero again. So Georgia, I see, has even gone above them on the rankings today. So which is good for them, obviously, because they're coming here in June. So yeah, but I'm definitely for it. A change of scenery. I don't like the weather up there, so but that's the players' problem. Luckily, not mine. But I think it's a great challenge. A lot of our players are currently playing there anyway, and I saw a great tweet from Q this afternoon saying how interesting would it be to have the Northern Hemisphere-based Springboks actually make up that team that plays there, and you have your Southern Hemisphere-based Boks, then operate the Southern Hemisphere-based competitions. And I thought, geez, now there's something that makes quite a bit of sense. But in the same breath, as they would say in Afrikaans, are they going to allow us to have our broodgeboter on albei kante? So, if they do, then hey, bargain, money. So good for South African rugby, because we need it more than anybody else.
Well, I must say, I think cricket must be very envious of rugby, because apparently it seems we like we the golden, or the goose that lays the golden egg at the moment, because everyone just wants us. So I actually think not even the Springboks. I think we should give ourselves a pat on the back, because apparently we the big buyers here and the big watchers. So we've got the buying power. But I think, as Rio Gamer says there, I think the big concern to me is, I think New Zealand would be the ones fighting the hardest to keep us, because
Yes.
I mean, imagine losing the Boks out of Tri-Nations. I just don't see the same kind of competition. If you get the Pacific Islanders in there, you get Japan, regardless of how they've upped their game, you just can't see them. And the way Australia's rugby is going, it's almost like there won't be enough competition for New Zealand. So that would be. I know we've probably said a few things tonight that sounds like we're getting very confident and possibly cocky as world champions. But to me, it's a realistic thing. The All Blacks always say it's such a big challenge playing the Boks, and it's a physical challenge, and I don't think they'll get that same effort from everyone else. So that would, I think they'd fight tooth and nail to keep us. But in terms of just the season and the way it works, I think it would be great for the Boks. And the other thing is, obviously, with the improvement of the Northern Hemisphere, I think that's also made a heck of a difference. It's not like it's going to be a step down for South Africa. There you're going to be tested against France, Wales, and Ireland and England on a weekly basis, or over the space of a month, where we probably tested by the Jags there, and then home and away to New Zealand. So to us, it'll probably improve our rugby. But maybe the only other question I'd like to ask you guys, we've maybe seen it with the Cheetahs playing that side. Do you think it would be worse, though, in terms of losing players then, as they feel that firstly they get more exposure that side, so they're going to be seen by clubs, even though probably maybe it's not that much more than now. And then secondly, because we're going to be playing there a lot, the South Africans wouldn't mind picking players in the Northern Hemisphere, because it almost gives us an advantage having guys who are used to those conditions. Anja, your thoughts on whether we maybe would lose more players by doing that?
I don't have a problem with players going overseas and going to go play. I think I complimented the Sharks on their structure and their development of their players. And we've got so many players in South Africa. I think any player who gets turned down by a union at any stage, if he's worth his salt and he's willing to make the sacrifices, he'll land a contract in Europe. If he wants to play for the Boks, he needs to make himself available, and he needs to make sure he's playing in a top tournament and playing for one of the top teams. My example is Cheslin Colby. His time came. He wasn't improving in South Africa. He went over. He joined Toulouse, and they've taken his rugby to new heights. And I did a post on it. I got it totally wrong, and it opened up my eyes to what we can get from letting our players go overseas. And you see it, how it's hurting Australian rugby, not selecting overseas players. It's going to start hurting Wales if they don't start letting their players move around and then start selecting foreign players. The only way Scotland can remain competitive is selecting players that are based in England. Ireland give their players a concession depending on how many tests. So I don't see. We've got an open door policy. If you're good enough, Rassie and you're willing to make the sacrifices, Rassie will select you. So I'm on the side of go play overseas. Let us play in the north. Let us play against England. Let them see our players. if they're going to pay them and they're going to coach them and improve their skills, I'm all for it because it's going to make Springbok rugby stronger.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. To me, it's just it's almost it's okay as long as the scale is still tipped in your favor, and obviously maybe some their kind of limits or something like that, or maybe just the budget and Saracens and those kind of guys being taking a bit of a beating will stop that. But to me, it's never been the issue with someone stopping and things like that. Or to me, it's more a Peter Steff the toy being talked about now, moving over. I mean, that's your World Player of the Year. That's someone who's vital for the Boks. Imagine a Siya Kolisi taking a contract there, and it's all good and well saying we've got a heck of a base, but just look at the Bulls, for example. They've just been ravaged 2 seasons in a row, and there's not much left. And you don't want to get to that stage where all our teams end up like that, and you've only got a Northern Hemisphere based team almost. To me, there is a bottom that could fall out, and then our rugby is going to be in a bit of the dwang. Cappy, your thoughts there, especially on possibility of losing more players?
Well, I mean, if we're going to be playing in the Northern Hemisphere, there's no reason why I don't see the guys not being allowed to play there. And thankfully, that 30-game rule is gone and all that nonsense. Maybe if cricket starts waking up, things might change also a little bit. I know this is not a cricket show, but anyway, I don't see any negative or too many negatives in regards to allowing players, if that's the route we're going to go. If we're not going to go that route, we need to, kind of define it and define it very quickly, so that players actually start knowing what's going to happen, where things are going to happen, so that they can also understand. But if that is the route we're going to go, then I don't see why players have to be stopped. And I think we all, between the three of us, or even if between the four of us, we can mention a whole bunch of players that we've seen leave our shores, gone there, and became better players, became more skillful players. So there's definitely more positives than I think negatives. To go up north, and I mean, like I say, if the Boks are definitely heading that way, then even more so.
And I think lastly, the big thing to remember is it's not like we're saying we would never like to play New Zealand and that kind of thing. I mean, I can still remember the time when we played the traditional test series. It'll just move to that, and we'll probably rotate between playing guys like play in that Tri Nations or the new Tri Nations. So it's not like we'll never play them. It'll just almost make it a little bit more special again, just playing them less. So I don't see that as too much negative. Guys, anything you want to say before we go to my favorite ending of the show?
Now, in this hypothetical world of us joining the Six Nations, there will always be a deal brokered with New Zealand. The game between us and them is just too valuable, and both unions make so much money from that test alone. It would be stupid that we'd give up playing at least 2 tests against each other, home and away, every year.
And I mean, the big thing as well as Rio Gamer is talking about the Super 15 or Super Rugby at present is obviously the Northern Hemisphere move will also involve us probably moving then and all playing in the Guinness Premiership, or not the Guinness Premiership, but playing in the European leagues then, which also makes a heck of a difference. Not playing Super Rugby is that would be quite a change. And again, I said New Zealand would put up a fight, but you also got to wonder about the further development and the slide of Australian rugby, whether it'll be good for them, not having quite the same kind of competition in Super Rugby, whether it couldn't be going further south for them. You ready? Happy? You ready for your favorite part of the show as well now?
Always.
Let me make an appearance.
Let's hit a few quick fire questions here. Andre, I'm sure you know the way it goes. It's just usually one word answers or short answers, and I'll fire them at you, and again I'll rotate. So I'll give Cappy's got the home ground advantage. So
Oh,
Cappy, you can
wow.
start. You can start with the answer first time around, and then you guys just alternate like that on the 6 questions. You good
Cool.
to go? Brent, you feel like answering as well?
Throw me in there. Throw me in.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you guys can figure out the answers. Who's answering? I'm just gonna ask. Okay, Tola brought this one up on social, so I'm gonna give him a shout out on this one. Everyone's gonna pick the South African one, so let's skip that. Apart from South Africa, who's got the best national anthem at the moment in rugby?
Ireland.
I'll go Ireland.
Is it any country?
Any?
Yeah, sorry, I've got a soft spot for for the New Zealand anthem.
Okay. Giel, most impressive SA player thus far for you in the first 2 rounds?
Yo, I didn't think that through.
Sorry, ask again quickly.
Most impressive South African player in the first 2 rounds?
Fussy.
Yeah, Fussy. I'll go with
I'll
Fussy.
go with that.
Okay,
No,
I'll go with Bosch. Most disappointing, Brent.
Most disappointing. Well, I haven't really watched that much. I'd say most disappointing has been
So
my
you're
bet.
the most disappointing right there.
No wonder Brent hides behind the scenes every week.
If I say,
Well, Brent is an easy one.
well, I'm in trouble with Cappy.
Giel, have you got someone that's dropped you thus far?
Jaco Versaghi with the Bulls.
Yo, I'm gonna go. I should go with Andre there, but you know what? I'm gonna go with Cornell. Sorry.
That's actually quite a good one. Okay, guys. Paul Willems, lock. I think he was at the Lions. Now playing for France. If he was available to the South African still, would he be in your Springbok squad?
Yeah.
Cappy.
2 years ago, yes. Now,
Giel?
eh,
No, we've got enough depth. You'd be about 7th in the pecking order.
yo,
Brent?
first at the Bulls.
And I'll say no as well. I don't even think he'd make the Stormers.
Yes.
Who wants to?
Okay. Would you rather be in whose shoes would you rather be at the moment? Cash van Rooyen or Poeteman?
Ugh,
Cappy.
That's not a fair question.
Yes, I've got a massive dislike for Lions fans. If I had to take over their side, I don't think it would go down well. But I'd much rather be in his shoes than Puerta's shoes at the moment. Hashtag Puerta out.
Yeah, now you just. Yeah, probably. I'll go. Yeah, okay, Cash.
Brent, you're just gonna say cash because it sounds like money, yeah?
I was going to say that too.
I'd like to be in Puerta's shoes because the guy underperforms in every job and he's still employed. So I'll go with Puerta.
Job security. Okay, guys, last one. Brent, if we played in the Six Nations, would we win it more often than the Tri Nations?
Catch, jokes aside, you know my old problems with the sound. It seems to have come back. I'm not hearing. I'm just going to switch connections and I'll join you guys for the end.
Yes,
Yes.
I think we would.
Yes.
Okay, guys, that's it. That's it for quick fire. I think, unfortunately, I'm not sure whether Brent can end the show, but Andre, thanks so much for joining us. It was nice having you on the first time. It was great having a chat as always.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Slow up the blocks, but I've gotten into the swing of things. Thanks a lot.
Cappy, as usual, thanks for joining us, and sorry for drilling you on the Bulls a little bit there to start with, but thanks for staying in a good mood with us, huh?
Yeah, no,
Just
thank you.
1 point.
Yes, go for it.
Sorry,
Andre.
Hein. Brent left you with 2 Bull supporters, eh?
Yeah, no, I was trying to stretch the Sharks segment a little bit because I mean, hearing two Bull supporters just singing lyrically about the Sharks there was fantastic. I could go another hour.
It's okay. Your turn's coming as well. Wait till Loftus arrives.
Cheers, guys, and thanks for everyone on the live show. It was a lekker chat. Brent, thanks so much for hosting us.
Excellent. Good to have you guys on. Just a reminder, the show will be available as a podcast in about half an hour. I'll tweet that link. And Cappy, thanks very much. Always good to have you on the show. And Andre, nice to have you. Look forward to having you on the show again in the future. Thanks a lot. And of course, Couch, thanks to you for hosting, guys. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks so much.
Cheers, everyone. If that was Use It or Lose It, do join us on Thursday night for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters. And if you are new to this channel, go down below and hit that subscribe button. We'll catch you next time.